Today we're going to talk about negative statements in German language. There are different ways to make a negative statement depending on whether you're dealing with an adjective, a verb, or a noun. Negatives in English. In English, you normally use not with adjectives and verbs usually also need a form of to do. For example, the house is not very nice. They don't drink coffee. We can also use no. For example, there are no sausages left and so on. What about negatives in German language? German has two main words to make a sentence negative, nicht and kein. Nicht is normally used in connection with adjectives and verbs. For example, das Wetter ist gut. The negative, das Wetter ist nicht gut. Ich trinke. The negative, ich trinke nicht. So with adjectives like gut, we use nicht before the adjective, nicht gut. And for verbs, we use nicht after the verb. Kein is normally linked to nouns. Ich habe ein Auto. Ich habe kein Auto. Let's see nicht in detail. So use nicht for adjectives and verbs. Nicht corresponds to the English not. It's used in connection with an adjective or a verb. Zum Beispiel, die CD ist nicht teuer. Also teuer, adjective, nicht teuer, not expensive. Das Haus ist nicht sehr schön. Sehr schön, nicht sehr schön, not very beautiful. Nicht plus verb, sie kommt nicht. Ich rauche nicht mehr. But what's the position of nicht? For a beginner, the placing of nicht may be confusing. The following guidelines may help you develop a feeling for it. In the present tense, nicht usually follows the finite verb. Sie kommt nicht. Geht nicht gern ins Kino. So we use nicht after the verb. Kommt nicht, geht nicht. It may be preceded by an expression of time. Sie kommt heute nicht. So we can use it at the end of the sentence. Sie kommt heute nicht. In the present perfect tense formed with haben, nicht stands in front of the past participle. Ich habe das Buch nicht gekauft. So before Partizip 2 oder past participle. What about kein? The other important word in German to make a sentence negative is kein, which is normally linked to a noun. Kein Problem, no problem. Das ist keine Antwort. This is not an answer. Ich habe keine Zeit. I do not have any time. So, Problem, Antwort und Zeit are nouns. That's why we use kein to negate them. To negate a noun in German, you need only to use kein, which corresponds to no, not, not any, do not have in English. So there are many ways to translate or to adapt this kein into English. Endings for kein. Kind behaves exactly like the indefinite article, eine. It must agree in gender, masculine, feminine, neuter, number, singular, plural, and case, nominative, accusative, dative, und Genitive. With the noun, er hat keinen Bruder. So Bruder, that's masculine. And here we have accusative case. Er hat keinen Bruder. Sie hat keine Schwester. Er hat kein Kind. Sie hat keine Geschwister. And here we have an overview of the endings for kein. We have kein Mann, accusative, keinen Mann, dative, keinem Mann, genitive, keines Mannes. Feminine, keine Frau, accusative, keine Frau, dative, keine Frau, genitive, keiner Frau. Neuter, kein Baby, keinem Baby, keines Babys. Plural, keine Kinder, keinen Kindern, keine Kindern. So you can see they're identical with the endings for ein, except for the plural, where they follow the endings for the possessive, for instance, mine. Phrases where nicht or kein can be used. So there are some phrases where you can use either nicht or kein. Ich spreche nicht Deutsch oder ich spreche kein Deutsch. Er ist nicht Ingenieur oder er ist kein Ingenieur. Ich fahre nicht Auto oder ich fahre kein Auto. Let's continue with comparative and superlative. So when you compare things, you can state that some are smaller, bigger, cheaper, more expensive, and so on. So we have comparative. Or if that one is the smallest, the biggest, etc., we have superlative. What about the usage? So in English, the comparative is formed by adding er to short adjectives or by using the word more. Cheap, cheaper. Interesting, more interesting than, and so on. And to form the superlative in English, you either add est or use the word most. Cheap, cheapest, the cheapest. Interesting, the most interesting. What about in German language? For one, German is more straightforward than English. Regardless of how long the adjective is, the comparative is formed by adding er to the basic form. Billig, billiger. Dieser Laptop ist billiger. Interessant, interessanter. London ist viel interessanter als Paris. The same principle applies to the superlative. When the adjective comes after the noun, you simply add stan and use the word am. Zum Beispiel billig, am billigsten. Dieser Laptop ist am billigsten. Let's see some examples. Most adjectives simply add er in the comparative. Klein, kleiner. Schnell, schneller. Hässlich, hässlicher. Langweilig, langweiliger. Other adjectives with stem vowels a, o, or u also add an umlaut. Here are some frequently used words. Alt, älter. Arm, ärmer. Jung, jünger. Groß, größer. Kalt, kälter. Lang, länger. Stark, stärker. Warm, wärmer. Short adjectives which do not take an umlaut include flach, flacher, rund, runder. So, es gibt auch Ausnahmen. Irregular forms. Most adjectives follow a regular pattern. There are only a few exceptions. The most important are gut, besser, viel, mehr, hoch, höher. To make them easier to pronounce, adjectives ending in er and el drop the e in the comparative. Teuer, teurer. Dunkel, dunkler. And how to say than? The German equivalent of than is als. Berlin ist größer als München. Berlin is bigger than Munich. Der Rhein ist länger als die Themse und so weiter. The superlative adjective in more detail. Adding stan. The superlative is formed by adding stan to the adjective. In addition, it's preceded by the word am. Klein, am kleinsten. Schnell, am schnellsten. Hässlich, am hässlichsten. Langweilig, am langweiligsten. Adding umlaut plus stan. As in the comparative form, most monosyllabic adjectives with stem vowels a, o, u add an umlaut. Here are some notable examples. Jung, am jüngsten. Groß, am größten. Lang, am längsten. Warm, am wärmsten. Then we have irregular forms. Adjectives which do not follow a regular pattern include gut, am besten, viel, am meisten. Also, hoch, that's irregular. So in this case, for superlative, that's regular. So it was irregular for comparative. So hoch, am höchsten. Adjectives ending in er and el, which drop the e in the comparative, retake it in the superlative. Teuer, am teuersten. Dunkel, am dunkelsten. So what happens with adjectives ending in these endings here? D, T, S, Z. To make pronunciation easier, adjectives ending in these endings in the basic form of the superlative usually add an extra e before stan. Kalt, am kältesten. Kurz, am kürzesten. So, wir haben esten as the ending.